Welcome to One-on-One with Expert Flyer. This is your host, Lisa Caslin. And today we're talking to Terry Suero. He is the co-founder of a really cool new organization called Safe Travel Pathways. Now, I know a lot of people are still very confused about, what do you do, what don't you do, what's safe, what's not, what airline is better, what hotel is okay. And, there's a lot of different organizations out there that are, handing out certifications saying that, these businesses are, A-OK, and sometimes they may not be. So we have Terry here who's going to talk about the mission of the organization and explain a little bit about why we need this and how we can take advantage of it. So let me be quiet and say hi to you, Terry. How you doing?
Well, hi, Lisa, and thank you so much for having me over.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, the organization is relatively new. I know you kicked it off last October. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the background, why it got started in the first place, and what you're aiming to do?
The organization was created really from a grassroots push of the travel industry, or really the independent travel operators, to try to clarify to the consumers and to the travel planners, travel agents, what are the safe ways to travel out there, if there are any. What's happened, and you said it correctly before, is that there's been a flooding of different stamps and accreditations, and some are good, some are bad. The reality, it's impossible for a consumer to process all these and to learn about them all. And it's even impossible for a travel agent to go through all of them, because each region has new ones, countries have new ones, there's big organizations that have new ones, there's hotel chains that have their own. And the reality is that some are very good, some are not so good, as you said before, to the point that I would say that probably more than half of them are not even audited. So it's based on an honor system, which, when it comes to your health, obviously it's not something that we just want to audit.
So those accreditations aren't worth the paper that they're written on.
Correct. And all this confusion is creating a reluctancy for people to travel. But more importantly, it's not allowing us to gain the consumer's trust again, which is going to be key. Those who start traveling need to feel trust in where they're going. And more importantly, we think that those certifications, stamps, whatever you want to call it now, because there's everything, we believe that it's not just wrong to give a false sense of security. We personally think it's downright unethical. Let me know if it's risky or not. Don't tell me it's safe when it's not.
We were talking, before the interview started, and I don't think the average traveler or consumer is going to question an accreditation. They're not going to say, well, was this actually audited? It wouldn't even dawn on you to ask that, but you're finding that many of these companies are not actually auditing. They're just going down a list of questions, and if the company says, yeah, I'm doing it, then that's pretty much all the checking that they do.
Well, what we're finding is not just many, more than half of them.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so it's a prevalent, it's worrisome. And that's what really has happened in this organization, was that we started hearing this from a lot of the quote-unquote good operators that are doing something. And the idea was, how do we create a consortium or a group to let consumers know about which are the safe ones? So that's what this group was created, formed to be. Two things primarily. One is to be a clearinghouse, basically a grader of these accreditations, so that the consumer can find out what they are. Now, we don't want to say that we're going to dictate how a traveler should travel. We all have different risks that we want to take, and just so you can make them in an educated way. That's the purpose. So you know which accreditations or which certifications, what stamps does that hotel have, and puts them in which kind of level, how much you can, count on the safety that they're doing.
And I think, today travel agents are really seeing a big change happening in terms of how travelers are viewing their role, and their businesses are sort of becoming reinvigorated through all of this. But now there's this expectation that they're experts in healthcare, and I would imagine it's stressful to have that responsibility if you're a travel agent trying to find the needle in the haystack. Okay, how do I get this person from point A to point B? And every single aspect of that trip has to be safe. And I guess your organization is sort of, kind of wrangling all of that information and coming out with this safe pathway.
Exactly. Well, and it's interesting what you said before. What's happening in the travel industry is that those who are good travel agents or travel providers are relying on their previous contacts, other travel operators, and your local company in the given country. But the reality is all of us in that segment are not healthcare providers. And we've been forced into it, so it's really daunting to try to even advise something based on information you just don't know. We know who the hotels are that we liked, we know who the operators are that we liked, but we also know that they're not healthcare providers. So we're relying on the decisions we make based on our assumptions from the past. And that really puts a travel agent in a very precarious situation because their reputation is tied to something they have no control of or knowledge of. And that's where we came to be, is that exactly, is to be able to facilitate the community to understand which ones other organizations and at what level are they safe or addressing that. In this case, traveling under the COVID pandemic. But also the other purpose of this group is to be able to create certain pathways in each country that can guarantee the safest itinerary. Meaning that if you work with these organizations or with a travel agency or with a tour operator that is part of all these companies, they can build an itinerary that from the moment you land to the moment you depart, you're always handled by, call it an A accredited travel provider. Meaning that everything around it is to the highest level you can. And it doesn't mean that if you are a little bit more risk-prone, that you can't veer out of that totally safe itinerary, but it's your decision to do that.
Yeah.
Not the travel agents or designers. An example of that would be if I want to go whitewater rafting. You're in a boat with 4 other people. There's a risk associated with it. But I can make the decision if I'm willing to take that risk or not. That's the notion behind it. It's really basically knowledge sharing and treating travelers and travel designers as adults. Let us decide what we want, but give me the right information. Yeah,
that's it. Transparency. So for an average Joe, explain to me what's the call to action? So now that we know you exist, should we be going to your website, or should we be telling our travel agent that they should be using you? What do we need to know?
The easiest call to action is to demand travel safe itineraries graded by us. So you can demand that through your travel agent, and they will then go and find out which other operators that can give that, and more importantly, also educate themselves about what's available outside. You can also go directly to the website. It's just starting off, so you'll start seeing the number of properties coming in and operators. And that is fine for somebody who's experienced designing their own itineraries. And it's also good for those who are just probably going to one destination. I'm going to this area, I'm going to stay in this hotel and leave. And that's fine. But for more complicated itineraries, I would definitely recommend a travel company. And the other thing that everybody's been focusing on, which we do not focus on, is the regulatory changes that are happening as far as now you need vaccinations to get to this area or not, but those are readily available, and that's something that travel agents should know about if they specialize in an area.
Yeah,
so what we're here
absolutely.
to do is provide the healthcare component.
Okay, so you kicked off your outreach in Central America and I guess the Hispanic region?
Well, it was actually Latin America in general. We were looking at the destinations that we thought the U.S. market would start going to. And the first one to come out with Latin America in general, South and Central America, the Caribbean, and outlying Hawaii and Barbados type destinations. And primarily because there were regions that were closer than others, and also that combined nature and outside environment, which is one of the things you want during these times. Because we can't forget that traveling is not just about being safe, but it's also about enjoying your time there, at least when it's leisure travel. Business travel is a little bit different. But when it comes to leisure, I'm not going to a place where I can't go outside do anything. And I'm cooped up in my room with a mask and gloves.
Right.
It has to be enjoyable.
No, not at all.
At least for most of us.
That's right. So, in terms of the rollout, I understand that companies are getting turned on to you, and they see the value, right? Because you are double and triple checking, making sure that the accreditations that they have are, what they say they are, and you're grading them based on that. Do the companies have to come to you to ask that, or are you going to get to the point where, you may be cherry picking certain destinations that are popular and doing your own appraisal without being asked, so that information would then be available to the general traveler?
Well, the beauty we're trying to do is to really have it be organic, so that it's not managed by us from the board's segment. It's really managed by the own tourism communities that they have. The only limitation we have is to be able to list it, we need to have a pathway in the country. There's nothing good about promoting a safe transportation company if you don't have the safe hotels to go to. So that's our condition, is that these communities will be admitted into it once they have a pathway, a way in which a client can go in and out in a totally safe way.
Got it.
What we're seeing
so
is
it's not good enough to have. It's not good enough to have a super safe hotel. You also have to have an airline that fits the bill, as well as I guess a bus or whatever form of ground transportation.
And activity providers and coordinators. You need the whole spectrum of travel operators, because just like anything, it's only as safe as the weakest link. You can be going to this amazingly safe and wonderful hotel, but if the van company picked you up, or you were waiting in this area where full of other tourists and guests, and you're right there, that's where you can pick up any of these other airborne diseases, or the van is not cleaned correctly and they just picked up somebody else. It's all about, for those who care about safety, again, those who are worried about it and need to be safe, it's only as strong as the weakest link.
Yep.
So we're trying to create a pathway in each country, and that's what then lets the community, I don't even say country, in each area of tourism, so that once they have that coalition, they can open up.
Okay.
And the idea also is to allow them to just themselves choose what accreditation they want, to find out what market they want, but to be able to provide at least one safe pathway into that area.
Got it. That makes sense. So, obviously, a lot of our subscribers and followers are frequent flyers, business travelers, leisure travelers. We have a lot of business travelers. How are you? Is the airline piece a different kettle of fish for you, or how is that playing into it?
The international airline piece is a different kettle. But what we are working is with the national flights, so all those small flights that might be happening inside the country.
Got it. Okay.
And for
so
the
is there
business travel
anything else
specifically,
that you want to tell me that I should know, or that our listeners should know before you take off?
Sure. I guess the most important thing I want to share is that the travel community is getting together to find ways for us to travel. We will be able to travel soon. It will be hopefully our decision of where we want to go and how much risk we want to take. But the idea is to be able to bring down barriers that are limiting us from traveling, not just regulatory, but just scaredness. Let it be from a leisure perspective, in which I want to make sure I'm going to enjoy myself with my family, to also the business side, in which I can justify to my boss or to the company that this is a safe route that I can go to. It's all going through safe partners, minimizing the risk.
Yep.
And that also gives us just more comfortable about traveling. And this is all coming from a purely organic perspective of enabling us to make wise decisions.
Yeah, and I think consumers need to verify when they trust now, and this makes it really easy to do that. So tell us, if we want to find out more information about safe travel pathways, what's the website?
The website is www.safetravelpathways.com, just as it's spelled, and in there you will have our phone numbers and emails for any other questions, and also a list of providers as they start signing up in the different geographic regions.
Terrific. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Terry.
More importantly, I would say is ask your travel agents, ask your travel provider for those hotels, because they are the ones who are going to be able to even dive deeper in it for you.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Have a good afternoon.
Cheers. Thank you.